adult being able to find something that they really care about, that they're really passionate about, for them to have kind of a creative outlet and expression. And in Boulder, we have, both the access of a town where participants can go and connect with resources in the town and get very creative, whether that's through open mics or through kind of athletic endeavors. And we also have the mountains. So we have the benefits of being kind of nature dominated, even though we're also in an urban setting. And that really allows, I think, a nice titration between being able to access the mountains, being able to access the power of the wilderness, and to be able to be in an urban environment that's kind of stimulating in that particular way.
Wow. Is there a waiting list at this point?
It fluctuates throughout the year, but there are definitely periods where we go through waitlist periods, but we try hard to allow, to really give people a time sense around when they could expect to be a part of the program.
Okay, so it seems like if somebody's really in need, that there is a way.
Yes.
Okay. And as far as funding is concerned, how are you funded?
We are funded predominantly privately.
If there is someone who is interested in contributing, how could they get a hold of you?
I think one of the best ways would be to get on our website, which has a lot of really wonderful information about the program, how it's structured, what we do, and kind of best next steps. And that would be through www.aimhouse.com. That's AIMHOUSE.com.
This is beautiful. And what's the name of your houses? The one that you are affiliated with is the Earl House. What about the women's?
I'm actually the house I'm currently the clinical director of. I've worked at both.
Oh, okay.
The house I'm currently the clinical director of is the Earl House, and then the program for young men is called the Castle.
The Castle. Okay, that's cool.
Castle.
I like it.
And we actually have a third entity called Made Life, which is kind of a creative arts studio where participants have access to video editing equipment and a sound studio and artistic supplies and all sorts of just a variety of different ways for them to be creative and to also be able to have like an end product that they're able to develop, whether that's a presentation to the community or whether that's an LP. There's Made Life is a kind of resource that we use to provide a very kind of real world opportunity for them to get trained in a creative field that they're interested in and to kind of have a final product that they can really know that they've accomplished and can market themselves with and can have a sense of that kind of fruitional aspect.
What a great idea. It sounds like a place I would love to work.
Yeah, it's a wonderful place to work. I think that's what's kept me here so long.
Okay, and tell us a little bit more about your journey, Angelo. And what brought you all the way to Boulder? And you were spending time in Japan as well.
Well, I originally came to Boulder to actually study Japanese. I knew that I really, Japan was just always a country and a culture that I was fascinated in part because I was very interested in Buddhism and I was interested in kind of contemplative traditions. And I received a scholarship to study at CU and was a part of their East Asian language department. And as a part of that opportunity, got to spend my junior year studying abroad. I actually spent the summer and also my junior year studying and traveling throughout Japan. And again, that was just very much rooted in a very strong interest in Buddhism, Buddhist practice, mindfulness, etc. And at the time, I was actually thinking about being a religious studies professor and majoring in East Asian studies. But it was in Japan that I really kind of realized what the lifestyle of a religious studies professor looked like, which was actually spending quite a bit of time in libraries. And I realized I really wanted to take some of the principles of mindfulness and Buddhist psychology and that kind of contemplative view, and I wanted to find a way to really apply it to daily life and to working with people around their own minds and their own experience of themselves and their experience of intense feelings, etc. So at that point, I had known about Naropa University from having lived in Boulder, and I decided that I felt like Naropa would really provide a wonderful bridging between the contemplative pieces that I was interested in with a kind of rigor around some of the teachings that we have from Western psychology. And I decided to go to school there, and it was just a phenomenal experience and one that I've always highly appreciated.
So you know Dr. Deborah Bowman then?
I do. I think she has taught predominantly in the transpersonal department, and I was in the contemplative department. There's a number of different graduate psychology programs at Naropa, but because I had heard so much about her, I was able to kind of find her out and sit in on some of her classes, and really enjoyed some of what she taught.
I interviewed her, I think, a couple years back.
Oh, wonderful!
Yeah, so
she's
it's interesting how we connect and come back around. It's just I always am amazed to see how life kind of works out that way. So AIM, they contacted you. You found them. How did you connect with them?
Well, the more I studied psychology and really began to consider what parts of this work inspired me most, I really knew that I wanted to work with young adults. I just feel like it's such a powerful crux in life. It's such a powerful kind of fulcrum point. And I also, have had the sense that I think as our society changes and culture changes, that period in life is changing so incredibly quickly. And I think clearly the young adults are asking and needing something that we are, I think, still in dialogue around how to best provide. And just knowing that was an age group that I personally really identified in my own life had been very powerful. I knew I wanted to find a program where I could really work with young adults. And I had some friends at the time that were working for AIM House, and they spoke very highly of it. So I began to get involved, and I actually just worked very much on the ground level. And it has now been 10 years. It'll be 10 years in October that I've worked with AIM House in a variety of different roles, which has really allowed me to kind of see the way different relationships, whether that's being a mentor or whether that's being a therapist, how different relationships meet different needs that a participant might be having and different needs that the family might be having. And I ultimately just really see myself as a clinician. I think that's where my skill set is most developed. And I've had the opportunity to be a therapist here and to continue a lot of training. I think one of the things I so value about AIM House is the amount of training opportunities that they really invest in their employees. So I feel like I've really been allowed to grow and been encouraged to grow and try different modalities and different approaches, and have had my ideas really incorporated into how we want to structure ourselves therapeutically. And it has been an incredible place to work, and I just really believe in what it is the program offers the young adults and the families we work with.
It sounds like a wonderful place, and the trust and the communication that must be there within the staff itself for AIM House to work.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the reasons I'm so drawn to young adults in particular is they can smell out incongruency in a moment. And
that's true.
They will let you know, and there is no hiding behind any kind of persona when you're working with young adults. It's if you're going to ask a young adult to be real with you, they want you to be real with them.
What's that called? It's called the BS meter? Is that what the
BS? Yeah, I think that's definitely one of them. Is they know it and they sniff it out, and they give immediate feedback on the quality of the relationship and how trustworthy they find you to be. And so I think that sets a particular kind of onus on us as staff to be as real and to be living what it is we are trying to convey to them. I think it has to be ingrained. It has to be integrated into ourselves as staff in order for it to really come across. Over the years, I feel like has encouraged my own growth so much, and to continue to look at myself and where my edges are, and to see where my unconscious leads me, and to really continue to hold myself to the same standards that the same standards of inquiry that we're really asking the participants to also engage in.
So, Angelo, where do you want to go from here? Are you just going to grow with AIM House, or where do you see yourself going?
It's a great question, and it's something that I continue to come back to. I know that I will continue to be with AIM House to the extent that I really feel like I both have something to offer, and that I'm also growing myself. I'm very passionate about working with young adults and very interested in working with families. I also have a lot of respect for Naropa and what that educational system provides for students. And I really believe in what it is they're trying to bring to the psychological field in terms of the contemplative dimension of the work, the mindfulness of the importance in the central role of mindfulness in order for psychotherapy to be effective, both for the therapist and the client. Mm-hmm. So I'm, really in a place of just continuing to weigh my options. And 10 years from now, who knows? I can definitely see myself being in private practice. I can definitely see myself teaching. I can see myself continuing to consult and really provide direction to a place like AIM House. But I want to continue to weigh those options and to see what opportunities come.
Angelo, so on this program, we have a tradition of asking, what is your bottom line message that you would like to deliver to humanity? So what is your bottom line message that you would like to deliver to humanity, Angelo?
What actually comes to mind for me, I'm just sort of trusting in the here and now what I'm associating to. And, one of the things that I was really interested in, and one of the things that brought me to Japan, was studying Zen and Zen meditation. And one of the things that gets talked quite a bit about in Zen practice is what they call taking the backward step. Mm-hmm. And what that entails is really, first, being willing to pause and to look at ourselves and to be looking at and really inquiring what is driving us, what is driving the thoughts and feelings that we are having, what's prompting us, what's inspiring us, what's moving us forward in our life, and to really explore to what extent the unconscious plays a role in that, and how, instead of kind of nailing things down in terms of known and unknown, that we really be willing to just take a continual exploratory stance towards ourselves and towards our world. And I think that's what inspires me most in this work, and most in working with people, that I think so much of what drives us is very, very mysterious, but there is a tremendous power in exploring it and inquiring into it and using the power of relationship to really do that. And for both people, neither of whom are an expert, to really engage collaboratively in a process of discovery. And I think that hinges on not knowing. I think that hinges on leaning into the shadowy aspects of ourselves, leaning into the parts that might be really difficult, really uncomfortable. But through doing that and through engaging that, bringing more awareness, bringing more compassion. In Naropa, there's a term called Maitri, which is kind of translated as loving kindness or friendliness. Mm-hmm. And the emphasis there is bringing Maitri to those rough, hidden aspects of ourselves, and doing that in relationship with other people. So I think that that's really just what comes to mind for me. The bottom line message is, I think what I try to apply in my own life is just to continually be very curious, and to inquire, and to take the backward step in looking at myself, and providing a space and providing relationships to engage in that process with other people.
Wow, that's very powerful. So be kind to yourself with Maitri. I like the name. And use that in such a way that we can take a step. So consciously take a step back so we can see ourselves from another perspective. It's very powerful.
Yeah, I think that it is. I think that to just take an open